He wrote everything. You know what I mean? Oh, wow, you guys got big. That looks nice. What happened? Oh, you're
I don't
recording.
know.
Big?
You guys
I'm
are
big.
You went to record.
Yeah, we're recording.
You went to record.
Record.
Let me fetch my binoculars
Hell yeah.
so I can record this information.
You know what? He started recording, so I'm not going to say I'm too fucking high to do this.
Again, we're going to go through that again.
Oh,
How much were y'all influenced by the John Wayne Bobbitt incident? That's the big question.
I remember the hell out of that.
I remember that he put out that porno called Frankenwiener or something.
Is that true, or was that
I
just
know,
like
yeah. My buddy was
Never
the manager of a video store. They got it in, and sometimes I'd walk in because, back in the day, porno wasn't about your stepsister. It was about doing movie parodies. So you'd see Edward Penis Hands, and, like any movie that was out there was some blatant fucking ripoff.
Is that real? Edward Penis Hands?
Yes,
oh my
Edward
gosh.
Penis Hands. It exists. So I'd go back there and
Wow.
check it out because the boxes were brilliant. I mean, seriously, and I remember seeing it, and I didn't ever rent them or watch them.
The fuck ever.
No.
Yeah,
I
remember the John Wayne Bobbitt thing like freaking me out. I think I was a teenager when it happened, but it's like something that never occurred to me, like getting your dick cut off. Could there be a worse punishment for anything ever?
Something that stands out to me that I remember as I think I was at my aunt and uncle's house that used to live in Longview at the time when the story first broke. And it might have been the day after it broke. I can't remember. But anyways, they had just found the severed penis on the side of the highway. Okay. And so I don't know what year was that? When did that happen?
I don't know. I think it's like
it was early
93, 94.
Okay.
So it's got to be sometime in there.
I was 10 or 11 years old. Okay. And fairly sheltered. And my dad is standing in the living room watching this, and he starts to laugh. And he turns around and he's like, what are they doing out there? Just like, hey, look what I found, guys. And I got a visual stuck in my head of this waggling peni flapping around in this guy's fist. This really excited, like forensic scientist. Look what I found, guys. And that's always stuck with me. That's what comes to mind. I remember watching. First thing, before I think about the fact that he got his penis severed, I think about that.
So we're just not going to call it a dick? Is that what's going on here? We're just going to call it a penis?
Well, no, we're three different, heads, and I'm taking on this persona, penis.
A Conan O'Brien skit where Andy's like sitting on a stand telling about being hit by this flying dick as Lorena Bobbitt throws it out the window. He's saying it like hits me in the face like this.
Oh man. But
yeah, those are. So anyway, yeah, that heavily influenced my childhood. No, not really. But okay, for anyone watching, we're talking about our influences for horror fiction today, how we came to be writers of horror and writers in general, and all that sort of stuff. Did either one of y'all want to go first?
No.
Mike always
wants to go first.
Was that you that said no?
Laugh it up, Mike.
All
right. Mike's first in the Cerberus book. He should go first.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm not.
You're first, and I'm last.
First,
I mean, Patrick's all over that middle.
Patrick's first.
First, I'll go first.
Oh,
I'll go first.
That's right.
Yeah, just play it however y'all want. I'll go first. I split it up into 3 categories: books, TV shows, and movies that influenced me.
Oh.
And
so you're like prepared for this. I'm not prepared.
I had to write it down. I had to go back in time and try and remember.
I kept thinking I should do that for the last 2 or 3 weeks since, but I didn't.
Since we said we were going to do it.
Yeah, but here we are. Let's roll.
This is a business owner right here. He doesn't prepare for shit. Lets everybody else do the work. That's how you know he's a business owner.
Thank you.
No, but
so much.
But all right. Yeah, I got a list of a few books here, and I actually have some visual aids with me, so I can.
Visual aids.
But visual aids. Yeah, y'all remember these guys? The Hardy Boys. Y'all ever read the Hardy Boys? You can't see.
Oh, I read them. I can't see it.
Yeah.
All I can see is your face.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'm
The
sure
Hardy Boys.
the viewer can.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know which one of these books got to me first, but the Hardy Boys, I remember like in 5th and 6th grade, I would check out from the school library. I think every week or every 2 weeks we'd get to check out a couple of books, and it'd be the Hardy Boys. And then I'd check out those Crestwood Monster Series books. Y'all remember those?
No.
Like the orange. Y'all don't know those?
No.
They're like,
I didn't read Hardy Boys either.
What the fuck is wrong with you? All right, these Crestwood Monster books. They're like these orange books. Why are you loving stuff? What is that?
What the?
I just discovered we could do a heart.
I saw him. You were
Cerberus
showing the
have
Hardy
one
Boys.
Does
You were showing the
Cerberus have
Hardy
one heart?
Boys, Patrick, and fucking Chris got this vacant, just like
I love Hardy Boys.
lethal moron look on his face, and then I knew something was coming, and then the hearts on
Lethal
the
moron.
fucking
No, I'm sorry. It was like a squirrel with a nut. I saw something new and I went after it. I'm down.
Right.
I hit the love button. Okay, I'm sorry.
I like it.
I know where that is.
Keep loving. Keep loving.
I loved Hardy Boys.
And the Crestwood Monster Series books were like, they're books about the universal monsters, basically. They're kids' books, though. They'd tell you about Frankenstein and Dracula and Wolfman, Godzilla, stuff like that.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, and I've actually looked online to try and find some now, and they're tattered and worn from being in all these kids' libraries for years, right? And they're still like $50 to $150 a piece. Yeah,
Holy
these
cow.
little tattered kids' books. So
I
evidently
guess
they're
they're
like
all out of
big
print
things. Oh yeah, this was late 70s, early
Yeah,
80s
yeah.
stuff. So
then? I forgot
But
your
then-
vintage.
I love my vintage stuff. And another one, Alfred Hitchcock. You gonna love that one for me?
Hold on, let me find it.
I've
Yeah,
actually
hit me a
never
love
read any Hitchcock.
Yeah, this was he didn't write really. I mean, he wrote scripts and stuff, but if he wrote short stories, I'm not familiar with them. This is anthology. It's like children's stuff. It has Sir Arthur Conan Doyle with Sherlock Holmes ghost story in there, and Mark
Which one?
Twain ghost story and stuff like that. You gonna have me looking up stories now? It's the Red-Headed League. The Red-Headed League.
Yeah, okay. I
But,
love Sherlock Holmes stories. Love.
As a
enjoy
kid,
them all.
what I liked most about this book was like the artwork. It had cool
that
artwork.
is great. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's all through the book, just cool shit like that. And so that was a book I loved. Ghost Stories of Old Texas was a book I loved. And I actually got the signature from the author on that one.
Nice.
Oh, dang.
But I think I wrote on my website, the book that influenced me the most as a kid was Night Shift by Stephen King. That's what really kind of made me want to be a writer. And I remember reading that probably 6th or 7th grade, and it just blew me away. Probably my favorite story is Battleground, which, Chris, I'm sure you're probably familiar with that one, where the G.I. Joe type guys kind of come to life
that
and
one was
kill
a
the
lot of fun.
motherfucker. Yeah,
That
and
was
then
a lot of fun.
the Mangler, of course, and Gray Matter.
Jerusalem's Lot's in that one, right? That's the opening
Yeah,
one.
Jerusalem
That's-
Lot leads it off, I think. Yeah.
One of my favorite
And,
shorts ever.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a great one. And Graveyard Shift. But,
Mhm.
or is Graveyard Shift in it? Yeah, it should be.
Yeah, I
It's
think
called
so.
Night Shift.
Hey,
With
we
the
should do
giant
this
rats.
just like Rising. We'll do go around the table with books, then go around the table with shows, and then whatever.
Yeah, go around the table with movies. That sounds good to me. But that Night Shift, I think we mentioned it on our last show. That's the one with Children of the Corn in it, which everybody hails as like his best short story. I think it's one of the worst in that anthology, or in that collection. I mean, there's so many good stories in that.
There's a lot
It's
better
not
stories
one.
in it, and the movie, to be honest, is better than that story.
Yeah, easily. And
The collection
yeah.
of Kings that I read the most as a kid was Different
Skeleton Crew.
Seasons.
Oh, Different Seasons was a good one too. Yeah, that was like his.
4 novellas.
Yeah, I don't remember
Yeah,
what
yeah.
was in it.
That
I just
had,
remember I liked it.
That had
I
the
know the
body.
body is
That
in it.
had Apt Pupil.
That Pupil
That's
is
it, yeah.
one of my faves. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I don't remember the other two. The other one's the one with the sun camera. I don't remember what that one's called.
Was it called the Sun Camera? No, I'm thinking of the Sun Dog from Needful Things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's what it's called. The Sun Dog. Was that?
The Sun Dog is
that
Needful Things.
ties into Needful Things also. I think.
Yeah.
It was in whatever that other one was that had.
I think that was in different seasons, wasn't it? I'm not sure.
No,
man, I don't know.
Other one
got it in there, but I'm not going to go dig it out right now.
He put out that one. It was right after Needful Things, and like I remember Sundog tied into that, and then I don't know. All of his stuff is just blended into like one over worded description of the woods.
If I'm going to go back just a couple of years, right, Ed Lee really influenced me in that, I read Header for the first time maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and it just kind of opened me up to thinking there are no holds bars on what you write.
Yeah.
If you think up something fucked up and think you can't write it, bullshit, Ed Lee's done it. So,
I bet right now he's one of the biggest influences that might not get credit going in the horror industry.
Him
There's
and
a lot of people that really, really follow him.
Yeah. Him and Ketchum and Lehman, Poppy Z. Bright. They kind of set off that splatterpunk movement. David Show. Yeah, they don't get a whole lot of big public credit, but they deserve it.
It's weird for me to think about. Like, I just didn't know what I was reading. There was no name for it. You were just reading books. Like the first Melick book I ever got or something. You know what I mean? I didn't know what the hell Bizarro was. This was just a weird fucking book.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know who coined the term Bizarro, but, back in the day it would just be surrealism, basically. Or
speculative fiction was what I used to always call what I like. Like Jeff Vandermeer, China Miéville, Carlton Melick III. I lumped them all together, sort of, I guess.
Kind of in the same genre.
I've never read Melick.
Satanberger?
Never read
I wouldn't even know where to... Because if I told you to go read his new stuff, I don't think his old stuff would have the same impact.
Yeah, you need to start with Satanberger.
But it's not his best book. Like, that's what the issue is.
It's the best I've read. What's the best you've read?
I really liked... Shit, I'm bad with the names. He's got one that he wrote that was basically a manga, and I just loved it. He set out to write a manga that was a novella, and that one blew my mind. That the Dairy Queen one's pretty fucking good.
You go to Dairy Queen, your face blows up, or
your fucking face explodes or something. Yeah,
face explodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he writes some crazy shit.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, what do you got?
For books, I started with a lot of Hardy Boys, but I don't know if you remember, there was the old Hardy Boys where they were like little kids, and then years later, he came out with like a whole new series. It was like 150 some odd really short novellas, and it was like, I don't know if he called it the New Adventures of the Hardy Boys or something, but they were like 18 and 19 years old.
Yeah, that's what this one, they're like, I think 16 and 17 or something.
Okay. Well,
I think
the ones I'm talking about were like a second set of books. Anyway, they had a ton of them at my school library, and so I ended up reading a lot of those. Mm-hmm. And then my parents had a couple of old Nancy Drew books. So I read this. So I had a lot of like mystery stuff.
Yeah.
And
I never read Nancy Drew.
Yeah. It's just basically kind of a girl's version of the Hardy Boys, but I don't know. Maybe that's not fair to say. It's its own thing, but it's similar. They've even had some crossovers. But
I guess I always assumed it was the same thing. It was just female point of view.
Yeah, it's a lot similar. But so in like 7th or 8th grade, a buddy of mine had night shift at school, and I had not been allowed to read anything King or anything like that, horror whatsoever. And I had snuck a few R.L. Stine, like Goosebump books from the library at school and a couple of Fear Streets. I really liked the Fear Streets. But he let me borrow this book, and so like I was reading it, on break at school, and then like after my parents went to bed or whatever. Really enjoyed it, but that was like the only taste of adult horror I got until I was literally like 18.
You were sheltered.
Yeah, but Jerusalem's Lot never left me, man. That one got under my skin. I still remember a scene where he goes into a church and he sees some painting that was so terrifying to him that he couldn't even recount it on the page that he was writing down. And I remember that got my brain going into overdrive. I don't know. And I read a lot of different things. I read Tom Clancy. I read a couple of Dan Brown books, some of the bigger, more well-known people. It wasn't until the last 3 or 4 years that I really started to discover a lot of indie authors.
Oh, what's your favorite book of his? I've read most of his stuff.
Which one?
I've read most of Dan Brown stuff. What's your favorite?
I only read a couple of them. I read
like the Da Vinci Code.
Da Vinci Code. I read that one, and Angels and Demons.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if I read another one. That might have been the only two.
Yeah, the Da Vinci Code I had, it was like a picture book. It had all the pictures of the stuff he was talking about. It was really cool.
I didn't have that. I had a hardback version.
I remember Da Vinci Code. When Da Vinci Code came out, it was like everybody was talking about it. I went to the store.
We lost Mike.
2 pages. Oh, am I back?
There you are. You went to the store and did what?
Oh. Okay, so I got Da Vinci Code. I sat down, I read the first 2 pages of it, and it started to refer events that happened before. I went back to the fucking bookstore and got Angels and Demons because I didn't want anything spoiled. I thought the first 2 were good. I thought after that he kind of...
Was Angels and Demons first?
Yeah, Angels and Demons.
But I read Da Vinci Code first, too.
Yeah,
I think probably everybody did because Da Vinci Code was huge, and Angels and Demons I don't think got the success till later. I think Angels and Demons is far superior.
See, I like Da Vinci Code better, but they're both great. They're both suspenseful as fuck.
I agree if you're talking about the movie versions, the Angels and Demons was better.
I don't like either one of the movies.
I think Tom Hanks is totally miscast, but they were still,
he is.
Entertaining enough.
I love Tom Hanks, but that was not his best.
You know what? What's his name? Tom Brown? What's his name?
Dan Brown.
You know what he taught me was, and it's something that I've kept in my head, and that's why I try not to do it. You know that the main character was just him, right? Just like
pretty much
him, but he's some like older dude that like all the hot European scientists fall in love with for some reason in his fucking tweed jacket with the fucking patches on the, I don't know, like that just always cracked me up. So I figure if I'm ever gonna like have the character based on me, it's got to be a parody of some sort. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to make myself a sex symbol in the book. That's fucking lame.
Yeah. He tried to make him into kind of an Indiana Jones character, but it didn't really work out that way.
And that was the problem with, I read the 3rd book, and at that point, he was, like, fucking invincible. Like, the dude could just solve any fucking... He was Indiana Jones, and that was lame.
That's the way... Did y'all read The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo? It's the same way. In the first book, she's like, she's this outcast that just kind of happens into this adventure. And then the second one, she's like a super smart mathematician and can do any fucking thing. It's like, all right, come on.
She's an elite hacker. She can hack into anything. She just does she's Rain Man and Good Will Hunting mixed.
Her expertise just keep expanding.
Yeah. Right.
But now, Chris, come on, tell us about Stephen King. We know that's your favorite author. What was your favorite, most influential King book?
Most influential. Huh?
Yeah.
Book not short. You already said Jerusalem's Lot. No, he already said Jerusalem's Lot for the short, so it's got to be.
Oh yeah. No. Most influential is probably it.
Yeah. I think that's probably
It's
the
probably
case for
most
people.
people's answer, but screw it, it's still true for me.
Well,
So.
it's his best book, in my opinion.
That or
Yeah.
The Shining, you know, I have a hard time going back and forth. I love both of them.
I don't think he's ever going to write anything that's going to come close to it again.
No problem. See, do y'all think
Probably
that's
not.
his scariest book though? Because I think
No.
Pet Sematary his
Pet
scariest.
Sematary is far scarier, and Apt Pupil is scarier.
Apt Pupil is the scariest.
There's 1922 is a lot scarier. There's a lot scarier books
I haven't
than
read that
it, but it is a master class in character development and just storytelling in general.
I think the reason it worked so well is there was an economy to his use of Pennywise. And there was never a time until probably the very, very end that you didn't think that Pennywise was just like everything evil.
Yeah.
Like in the basement of the library, like that scene always stuck with me. That was to me one of the scariest ones. That one, or when God, I'm gonna get the names wrong. When Mike saw the fire, was it Mike Hanlon?
Yeah, Mike. Yeah,
Mike Hanlon is
the
one
black
of the characters. Yeah.
And he saw the fire that had killed his parents, right? Wasn't that the one with the burnt bodies?
Yeah, he was talking about when I think his dad was recounting the story or something when it went back to that. But
right.
Yeah, I thought that was just
God, that was terrifying.
To me, the scene where Beverly goes to the house that used to be her dad's, and the old woman lets her in, and it turns out to be Pennywise, and he starts to do like a clown, almost a stand-up routine, but he's got body parts and he's dancing. I loved that scene. That always creeped me out.
They redid that well in both movies.
Yeah,
in both the It movies, they redid that scene well.
I agree. I do like the old one with John Ritter.
Yeah, to me,
I like it, but it's
thing
not
it had
because
going
of John
for it was
Ritter.
Tim Curry.
Yeah, Tim Curry was great.
He was great, but man, the rest of it was suffering from 1990 TV movie or whatever it was.
I liked the kid. What's his name? The kid that played Richie in the first one. He's one of the.
Is it Seth Green? No.
Yeah, Seth Green.
It was.
That's what. Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. Yeah, he played Richie in the first one. I thought he was hilarious. But the Richie in the new one was probably better.
I agree. I think the acting
Richie
all
was
around
fantastic.
was better in the newer one.
I thought Bill
Hader was awesome.
Stole that. Yeah, he was.
He elevated it Chapter 2 higher than it would have been without him.
Yeah, for sure.
The
casting wasn't bad in either one of the new movies, but
the casting was spot on.
What's his name that played Dimbro as an adult? God, why can't? McAvoy. James McAvoy.
Yeah,
he's a great actor, but he didn't have a damn thing to do in that movie. He was totally wasted. I felt like he just kind of broods and walks around. Well, yeah, but I mean, he doesn't do much in the movie. He's supposed to be this leader, but he hardly does anything. It's Bill Hader's character and the guy who plays Eddie, who are the ballsiest ones that really fight at the end. It's not Bill.
Yeah.
What the hell are you doing here, Bill? Why do you live?
I would have to go back in and see it again, I guess. Yeah, because in the book, Bill is for sure the leader. That's not questioned.
And then Richie steps in and helps Bill at the very end. And all of them kind of do, but it's really Richie and Bill. But Bill was central to it. I didn't feel like they captured that in the movie. I always
felt that the book was Bill's story. Everybody else was there, but Bill was the main character of the book.
Well, see, I feel like, Bill's the main character, but Mike is kind of telling the story. He's the one that does the interludes.
Yeah, I think the thing was that Mike always looked up to Bill the most, and that's why he made Bill the main character.
Yeah.
And I think that was intentional.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've just always felt that way about it. And that's the thing about the second movie, was that he wasn't. I mean, the whole wife getting abducted was gone. The Hi-Yo Silver at the end, that's the feel-good moment of the book. When she comes to and they're racing down the road on that rattly bike.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my God, that was a cheer thing. Mm-hmm. At least for me as a kid.
No, it was.
That moved me as a child, because I literally, I think I was 10. Whenever it came out, I read it that year. So maybe 11?
Yeah, I did too. That's when I read it as well. And that, I don't mean the book. Whenever the movie came out, it's whenever I read the book.
No. I got the book for my mother for Christmas.
Okay.
And it was hidden in my room, and I got curious one day, so I opened it. And I read the whole fucking thing. Like, at night.
I think the book came out in 86.
85 or 86, yeah. I don't remember which
it's
one.
It's set in 85
yeah.
and 58. But
I think the movie was in 91.
It was 89 or 90, wasn't it?
No, was it that late?
It was 89 or 90, I think.
I thought it was later. I don't know.
I didn't discover television until older in life. All right, so
what's your influences, Mike?
Turn the bedroom to 70%.
I've never read a Hardy Boys book. There was a
shame on you.
There was a series at my library, and it was Danny Dunn. Dunn. I'd never even thought of this book again until you held up the Hardy Boys thing, and that blew my mind.
Let me look that up.
Yeah, there was the Danny Dunn series. I can't remember how many they were, but those were the only books I checked out of the library. Like, every time I went, I got the Danny Dunn books and just read them and reread them.
Oh, Danny Dunn. From the 50s.
Did you find them?
Danny Dunn.
50s and 60s. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know they were that old.
In the 60s and the 50s.
Yeah.
God dang, they go all the way back to the 30s.
Do they really?
Yeah. Cool.
All right.
So it's like adventure books, it looks like?
Yeah. He was like he was that kid that always somehow sniffed out a mystery. You know what I mean?
Ah.
Yeah.
I guess
so
he was like the Hardy Boys
were. He was like, what is it? Cecil Hardy. Nobody paid any attention to him because Frank and Joe got all the attention.
And... yeah.
There was
that the father? Yeah. Their dad was a detective.
He was the stepson that nobody accepted.
No.
Makes sense. But let's see. So Danny Dunn. And then, honestly, I kind of skipped right from there to adult books. I didn't like kid books very much. So 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, I remember, was the first adult book. And I know I bring it up all the time, but there was just fucking something about you're on the Nautilus and Captain Nemo and Atlantis. When they shine the lights and it's written there on that broken column. I don't know. God, that just blew my mind. Just
it was unfortunately abridged version of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, but it was illustrated, and it was this tiny little trim.
Yeah,
and they had a bunch of Jules Verne books. They had Jekyll and Hyde. They had some Twain, Connecticut Yankee, and King Arthur's Court. Anyway, I ended up with a bunch of these. I don't know if my dad came across them somewhere, but I read 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea in that version as a kid and just loved it.
Oh,
and then I didn't realize at the time that I was reading an abridged version, so that there's so much more. Wow.
So much more.
Yeah, and then the same thing with Jekyll and Hyde. The Jekyll and Hyde version I had, it was also abridged.
Yeah, I think that was a short book anyway.
It was
a short book.
It was still abridged, but it had some great illustrations. I probably still have it. I should find it. But I remember getting up in the middle of the night, turning the light on,
probably matter more than
go and look at it again.
Right. I don't know. So I just jumped right from there to we were poor. So what I would do is I'd go to the bookstore. Oh God, confessional. I would buy a comic book. I would go on my bicycle. So I'd get a comic book, and they give you a real small bag for the comic book that just fit the comic. But I'd say, hey, I'm on my bike. Can I get the one with handles? Well, the one with handles was gigantic. And then I would shoplift. Like I would, and that's what I stole. So I'd steal all the books. So I just stole based off the cover. I didn't have any influence. I didn't have any.
That's how I shopped for books as a kid too.
So Fairy Tale by Raymond E. Feist. I think it's his best book. He wrote some brilliant fantasy, but Fairy Tale is just pretty much straight up horror, and it is fucking phenomenal. I think I put that in my top 3 horror books of all time. Because if I think horror and close my eyes, I think Ghost Story, I think Fairy Tale, And then I guess I think It. If I'm going to be honest with you, like I know you guys put
Poser.
It up in your top. Yeah, I know. But I mean, it really moved me.
That's the most non-hipster thing you could ever say.
Well, you know what it is? You know why I don't like King? It's not that I don't like King's writing. I don't like that King inspired a billion King clones that are just trying to tell the same kind of story. It's not
That's not his fault, though.
No, it isn't. But I hold him responsible for it because for a good stretch there, he did paint by numbers books that weren't
Meet
as
a
great.
single horror author right now that has not been influenced by Stephen King in some way. Literally all of us.
They don't exist.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know it.
Why I
wouldn't know
stopped
it
reading
if you look
mainstream
on certain
books.
online groups, but people are just discovering King. Anybody read King? Anybody read
Right.
Clive Barker? Who's this Dean Koontz fella?
Now, see, that was my thing, though. King? I didn't like a lot of King's books because I don't like the way he writes. I just don't. He describes things in too great a detail at the expense of story, in my opinion. I'm stressing again, in my opinion. I don't like his over descriptions. But like Clive Barker, he wrote poetry that was disgusting. And the pictures that he painted, and even honestly, the pictures that Koontz painted, they were faster, gut punches. The story got through. You could read them in a sitting. King, I was like, fuck, do I have to skip this whole chapter? Like Tommy Knockers, talking about her period.
But let's be fair on Barker. He's written some doorstops, too, that meander quite a lot. Imagica comes to mind.
But
Yeah,
where it
Imagica's
meanders
one of
is
them.
insanity. Like,
Weave
his
World also.
stream of consciousness insanity to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Again,
Even Cold
I see
Hard Candy is
Kings
long.
are like all characterization and world building, and so I think it's all relevant to the story because he wants you to feel like you're a part of this community he's writing about.
Here's the thing. It could have been maybe 1/3 the length that it is and still told a captivating and complete story, but it wouldn't be as good of a book if you took those other 2/3 out of it, because there's a lot of stuff in there.
What if you took out
really necessary?
What if you took out the kid orgy? Would that have affected your?
That would be one good thing to take out.
the 9
Cut
paragraphs
your
about them
freaking
letting
hands. Do
farts
it like
on
they did in
fire
the
at the
movies.
dump.
Cut your hands. We're blood brothers.
What was that about?
It's
There was
about
some weird
cocaine,
shit.
I think. I think it was about cocaine.
Right. I think that
Could have been.
and I
that
think
was
that might be
the
the
height of
thing. I think maybe that's why I like his newer stuff better. Is maybe on the coke he was just fucking rambling, and
Maybe.
that's what I'm getting from it. And now like the Mr. Mercedes books and stuff, they're fast. He tells a fucking story. I don't even know if I could tell you what anybody looks like except for the fact that I watched the TV show.
Well, you know what? He doesn't. He deliberately does not describe characters very vividly. He says, because he wants that to be up to the reader. I've heard him say that a lot of times. He'll describe scenery, landscape, buildings, all this other stuff, but he kind of leaves the description of the person
Well,
more aloof.
that must be a newer thing because he doesn't do that in his older books. He does.
No. I think it is newer. I think it's something he's kind of evolved into because, yeah, like you said,
And that's
Mr.
what I like.
Mercedes. Well, even if you go back to Under the Dome, which is another epic, doorstop.
Well,
that
there's
thing
like
is
100 people in that one.
It's 1,000 miles an hour from start to finish, though.
That
book never dragged to me until the end. The end sucked, but the rest of the book before that was a lot of fun.
I don't even know that I know what. No, I didn't make it far enough. If he ever explained why the dome was there or anything, I never got to that.
It's sort of halfway explained at the end.
I loved when the dome.
It's not a good ending.
When the cow gets cut in half, I thought that was fucking great. And then, God, I just hated everything
Gotta
after.
go for a.
I might be thinking of the
It doesn't
TV
matter.
series.
It was some wooded creature from Maine that I don't see around here.
I don't remember what it is. All right, y'all want to talk TV shows?
Sure.
All right. I got like 2 main influences on TV shows. Now,
Okay.
I watched like the Munsters and Addams Family, and I love those, but those aren't really an influence on my horror love, or my love of horror, or my writing. I think they were kind of a product of me already loving the genre. But
All right.
Unsolved Mysteries is one. I remember watching that, and just this. Even now, when you can get it for free on Amazon. Even now, when I play those old episodes, that theme song just gives me the chills.
Yep.
And just Robert Stack has the best voice ever, especially especially for mysteries and
Unsolved Mysteries.
Yeah, on another edition.
That's the only thing missing from the new Unsolved Mysteries.
Have you watched those?
They're really good, but I do miss Robert Stack a little. I wish he was there.
But I like that they still have that theme song, though they've tweaked it a little bit, and then they show the image of Robert Stack at the end of the
kind
theme
of a
song.
silhouette or whatever.
Yeah, it's cool. But I remember sitting there in my living room watching those, just getting the chills watching as because every episode they would have something supernatural, along with the murders and disappearances and stuff like robberies. They'd always have one supernatural something. It'd be like ghosts or UFOs or chupacabra, some shit like that. And I remember waiting each episode for that. That's what I loved about them. And then my other TV show was the Twilight Zone, and I'm talking the old ones, like
the black and whites.
Yeah, started I think in '59.
Yeah,
went for 5 seasons. I've watched
the real Rod Serling ones.
The Rod Serling ones with they were either written by him or
the best ones, yes,
or Richard Matheson or Ray Bradbury. I mean, all these just brilliant authors that were contributing to that. And even as a kid,
the greatest creators. He had what was going to become the gods of the industries, and they didn't even know it at that point.
No.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was just. What's y'all's favorite Twilight Zones? I mean, mine. Obviously, probably the scariest one I remember is "It's a Good Life." That's the one with the boy that can do whatever.
The peanut butter hamburgers.
What is that?
The little boy who controls the whole family, and they do everything he wants. Yeah. And he forces the mom. She makes the person's there for dinner, and he makes cheeseburgers with peanut butter on it because that's what the kid likes. And everything is controlled by that kid. That was horrifying. Everything. Yes,
it was. And they always have to be in a good mood because he can read their minds too.
The one with no mouth. When he took the mouth away.
Yeah. Well, see, you're thinking about the movie. You're thinking about the movie version. I'm talking about the TV version. The movie version was good too.
I was going to say.
Yeah, I guess so.
The TV version, there was one where there's like at the end of it, there's a nuclear warhead literally about to strike.
Yeah.
The guy can tell it to stop, but everything freezes and he can never start time again without annihilating humankind. That one was great. There was one where all these people are on this street and they all lose power. But then their cars would randomly turn on and run for a while and then turn off and then wouldn't start. Yeah, and all these people start turning on each other and they end up murdering somebody who had gone into town for help. And at the end, it comes back and there's like aliens on a hill talking about how all it takes is taking away some technology for a few minutes and look what they become.
I still think the Burgess Meredith where he breaks the glasses at the end.
That one's great.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I don't think there's a more iconic scene than him finally sitting down and about to read, and then it just breaks. Yeah. It's humanity.
Another iconic scene is the one in that diner where they're trying to find the one Martian, and he finds that the guy behind the counter finally takes off his hat at the end and has a third eye. What was that one called? I don't remember what that one was called.
I don't know names of any of them.
You know, the one that had William Shatner on the plane with the gremlin out?
Yeah, that was the Nightmare at 20,000 Feet. Yeah.
The movie version with Lithgow I liked even better. That's always been a favorite of mine.
Yeah, that was a good one too.
I think I was disappointed.
And the very end with Dan Aykroyd kind of turning, I was like, "You want to see something really scary?"
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good one too. But even now, I could sit there and watch Twilight Zone over and over.
Me too. I have not tried to watch the new Jordan Peele version at all.
I watched the first one. He's basically rehashing the old ones. I don't get that. There's so much new material. Why are they going back to the old shit?
Why the Twilight Zone fails. Why? It's why the Twilight Zone has failed. The original Twilight Zone was a singular vision. And now every Twilight Zone since has been retelling that vision. No. Come out and do that's why Black Mirror was so good, because it's Twilight Zone from England.
See,
it tells Twilight Zone stuff without.
I think they could do Twilight Zone over again and make it just as popular if they did it exactly the same as Rod Serling did. Make it black and white. Make it with the same kind of technology. Don't use fucking CGI. Use somebody with a good voice like Rod Serling, get in there and don't retell the stories. I'm not saying that, but do it in the same format and just see what some creative filmmakers and writers can come up with.
Yeah,
I think that'd be a cool way to go about it.
I've always said if I got that fuck you clout from a book, that I got a Netflix deal, that I would have my own. It would be a series. I wouldn't call it Twilight Zone, but it would be where I control every bit of it so that it's the vision that I want to see at the end of it. Like 8 episodes a season or something, and just fucked up tales, but the way I want them to be.
Yeah.
Because that's what he did, and that's why it worked.
Yeah, that's how Rod Serling did hit. But see, this day and age, nobody has complete control over any programming. You got to go up the corporate ladder to get anything done.
If you want to have complete control, you need to be self-made rich person.
Yeah, you need to produce
and just produce whatever you want to do, and then you can use Prime on Amazon and put your movies on there. That's the only way you have complete control.
You do the Kirkland route, as far as I'm concerned. You get The Walking Dead, you put it out there, and then you start to own all of your IPs. And you slowly but surely, you do them how you want to do them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Chris, what are your 2 shows?
2 shows.
Well, The Twilight Zone is one of them, same as Patrick. And I guess we're talking about influence. I'm gonna bring up a show that's much more recent, but also had a lot of influence on how I write, and that was Lost. The first 2 or 3 seasons were like some of the most suspenseful television I've ever seen at the time, anyway. And I don't know, anything like that can really build the tension, even in a mundane scene. You still felt like something was about to explode on that show at certain times. And so that one was pretty influential to me.
Yeah, see, I still haven't seen that one. I need to see that.
It's worth
it.
My
problem is, if they put that show out in the 70s, it could have probably maybe been the greatest show of all time. But in the day that they put it out was right when the internet had banded together to form a hive mind. So it was basically by the middle of the 2nd season, we knew they were dead. You know what I mean? Like the big twist was gone. Oh,
no, I didn't know they were all dead until the last season. I was suspecting it in the next to last season, but I didn't get that.
Had the show been created even in the 80s, they could have told their story and not been worried. But then what happened was the hive mind figured it out way too early, and they were like, you know what? We're going to throw as many red herrings as we can. And soon they had too many balls in the air, and they couldn't juggle it all. And that's what the first probably 2.5 seasons, I was right there with you. And then once they started to
through
flash
the end of
forwards and shit,
the end of the 3rd season, I think, and I might be wrong, but I think the very last episode of the 3rd season had the first flash forward. They've done flashbacks before that.
Yeah.
And I was confused when I was watching it, but when I realized what was going on, especially when the next season came out and it was all flash forwards, then I got interested again. I didn't care for the jumping through time thing. But luckily it was only a few episodes in the later seasons. And I thought they wrapped it up okay. I wanted the finale to be more focused on Jack and Locke. And instead it was that happened early on in the episode, and the rest of it was all this mopey falling action.
Well, the thing that fucked him
but it still
was,
wasn't bad. I mean,
the what was his name? The black dude, Mr. Echo? Mr. Echo, was that his name? The black dude who had the hat and the cane?
Man,
he showed up in like the second.
I know you're talking about. He's super creepy looking.
He was supposed to be the main antagonist, and then he left the show, so they had to rewrite it to make it Locke.
Okay.
There was a lot of things that fell apart on that show that caused me to lose my love of it. But the first, 2 seasons for sure were some of the best TV ever.
I'd say the first 3 for sure, but the 3rd season's finale where I think it's got Mikhail underwater, and that dude looks through that porthole when he pulls the pin on the grenade. Do you remember that? Oh my God, it was so awesome.
No, I just
it was so that episode had me like white knuckled. I remember that because
when that show jumped the shark, I was done.
I had bought the first 3 seasons right before the 4th season came out, so I was watching them all, catching up, and then that one happened. It was going to be like a week before season 4 started, and so I was just like, in freak out mode, sweating for a week.
No,
that's how much fun I had. I'm telling you, that show had a big impact on me.
So, as somebody that doesn't watch many TV shows, if I wanted to watch from start to finish a horror show, what would be the one to go with? Like, I've got like the first 5 seasons of American Horror Story on DVD.
That's not that great a show.
No,
some seasons are okay, but not all seasons. To me,
I will say, in my opinion, I dislike what seems to be the most popular season, Freak Show. I didn't like it.
But I liked that one.
I hear people talk shit about the Roanoke season, and I thought that was
that one's good.
Tremendous. That is my favorite by far. I think American Horror Story is worth it just because of all the lore they establish, and then once you get farther in, the lores start to meet.
No, it's don't get me wrong, it's worth watching, but it's not great either.
And I know a lot of people shit on 1984, the last season that came out.
I haven't seen that one yet.
It starts off, it's a fucking teen slasher in the 80s. And then it does a fucking twist. And when it does the twist, I thought it was 10 times the fucking series. I loved it. Oh, wait a minute. So is it my turn? Am I supposed to do 2?
Yeah.
Am I?
I think.
Yeah, it's on you.
Easily number 1 is Twin Peaks. There's no...
Never seen.
And you know what? I don't know that I recommend it. The first season was a brilliant, fucking insane, surrealistic murder mystery. And then you find out who the murderer is, and the show kind of goes off the rails. The second season, and then when it finally comes back, it's way the fuck off the rails, because they just went, like, it goes full David Lynch mode, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
like,
I know what you mean.
When it was controlled David Lynch for the first season, I don't know that... it just made no fucking sense. There'd just be weird jazz playing and people fucking dancing, and then there was the dwarf in the Black Lodge that only spoke backwards. Fuck, dude. It's insanity, but it was so good. The Log Lady and, Agent Cooper. So definitely Twin Peaks is number 1. See, I didn't watch any of those shows we didn't watch TV. Like, at all when I was a kid. They watched the, Murder, She Wrote and whatever was on a Sunday night if it wasn't football. And there was nothing else. Like garbage sitcoms. Yeah. Like fucking whatever, Three's Company or bullshit like that. So I didn't watch TV.
This detective show called Simon and Simon. I remember my dad used to watch it.
Yes. Simon and Simon, Crazy Like a Fox, Magnum P.I., all those procedural fucking mystery shows. But they were all the same. So I didn't care. So
Boring the fuck out of Chris, so he yawns and then hearts us both.
All right, so the second show is actually even newer than Chris's. And I think it's the greatest TV show start to finish I've ever seen. And most people would think I was going to go X-Files, but it's Fringe. I've never seen a show as good as Fringe.
Fringe is great.
It starts off with the Monster of the Week shit, but then they end up tying every one of those into the main story. It was brilliant. Absolutely fucking brilliant.
Yeah, that's a great show.
I did love X-Files, though.
X-Files
it is a modern X-Files, but it's better.
X-Files should have stopped when they made the first movie. Coming back and then replacing...
The movie sucked ass, though. The
first one, Fight the Future?
Yes. No,
none of the movies actually showed the aliens for the first time?
No, the second one, movie...
The second one was fucking great.
Yeah, I liked
Bring It Back here recently, and it sucked, too.
It was
the second movie was more just an hour and a half episode of the X-Files.
Right. That's what. Yeah. It wasn't the first movie to me relied too much on your knowledge of the show. It didn't stand on its own. The second movie, you can watch that and walk away just like you could any episode of X-Files.
It was like a bad episode of the X-Files, though. It was not intriguing to me.
Well,
so
that's
so
up
for
to the
geek,
interpretation, I guess.
For a giant fucking geek like me,
Everything.
the X-Files movie opening, I had all the fucking toys. McFarlane put out the toys, the action figures, and it was the first time you could see the alien. And dude, I'd been watching X-Files every fucking Friday religiously. And then suddenly I'm going to get the payoff for what this show has been building to. I was ecstatic with it. But I was that hardcore guy that it was aimed at.
I was all about that song that said, "Let's do it doggy style so we can both watch X-Files." That was me. I loved X-Files.
Hell yeah. But I
liked
think
it a lot.
Fringe was better.
Fringe is better.
Fringe
I'll
did
have
the
to check
same
that
thing,
one
but
out.
was better. I'm telling you, man.
I have not seen all of Fringe. I've seen the first 3 seasons, I think, or
It didn't
2
even
and a half
get good
seasons.
yet.
Well, what I was watching, I was enjoying the crap out of it. It had that guy that was in the Chernobyl show from HBO here recently that showed up as kind of a villain, and he was just establishing himself as a villain, and I was loving it. And I haven't seen it really beyond that, so
my God.
I'm gonna go back and watch it because I love that show.
As much as I loved up to that point, after that it becomes one story. There's no more Monster of the Week, but the story is just so fucking engrossing. And the guy who played Walter, I don't know what his name is.
Yeah,
fucking
he's
brilliant.
great.
Was in Dark Matter.
Dark Matter. Is that from Sci-Fi?
Yeah, it's a TV show called called Dark Matter, and he basically told about these weird true stories. It's kind of like
I'm thinking
1 hour documentary type things.
Oh wait, yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. You know what? Honestly, now the shows that I watch the most, I fucking watch YouTube videos. like
documentaries and podcasts.
I do like 10 weirdest places on the planet. Weird lake.
Oh my God, me too.
Oh God, Mind Boggler on YouTube. Yo, shout out, buddy. Mind Boggler.
I've been on a kick of it's either cosmic horror that I can find somewhere on Prime or Shudder, or I'm watching spaghetti westerns.
And according to Chris, cosmic horror involves pretty much anything.
Anything.
Not anything.
Literally anything.
It doesn't mean space. It can mean space, but it does not necessarily mean space.
Before Patrick hit record, this is a true story. Patrick will back me up. Chris will deny this. Chris showed us his finger. He had a paper cut, and he said, "Look at this cosmic horror." We're like, what? And he said, "Look, it's Lovecraftian. Look at the non-Euclidean geometry of the moon."
They do this because I'm younger than them. And what do old men like to do? They like to make fun of the youth.
You're like a year older than me.
Oh crap!
How old are you?
I'm 37.
Okay, you're 2 years younger than me.
See? You old
I've got to ask you a question, Patrick. I've been meaning to ask this. All right.
I'm all ears.
So I'm driving down the highway, and when I drive,
driving down the highway.
Right, I'm more creative. Like my mind starts flowing with stories.
You're rolling down the pavement.
So I'm talking to this guy that I'm working a story with, like a book. And it's hard for me to type because I'm going 85 miles per hour down country roads. So I type to him my phone number and say, "Can you call me?" It corrects the U to an I. This dumb fuck doesn't understand what I'm trying to say. Can you imagine somebody so fucking dense that just because it says I instead of you, but I included my fucking phone number, he cannot figure out how to operate his goddamn phone? I saw it flash on the screen. He was like, "Do what now?" That was his response. And this is exactly what I said, Chris. This is exactly what I said. I went, "Fucking millennials." And I just kept driving and didn't respond to you.
Oh, that was Chris.
Yes.
Okay, I wondered who the... First off, my question was going to be, who the fuck are you writing a book with that you hadn't told us about?
Okay. I remember this now. Now that he told it in such a roundabout way. I was out working and I was drenched in sweat. Okay, because it's been really hot this week.
You're a business owner.
Yes, but I still work in the
field.
Don't
you
sometimes.
Have minions? Don't you have minions that are supposed to be
God, don't
drenched
be
in
one
sweat?
of those people. This is why I don't have friends. This is why.
No, Patrick. I've got to hear his fucking answer.
I'm just joking. My wife's a business owner. I'm a business owner.
Give me a buzz if you can.
Anyway, I can't remember what I had texted to him, but all of a sudden, it looked like when he sent back, I could tell he meant you, but I thought he had meant to send it to somebody else because nothing that we had been talking about warranted a phone call. and I already have his number, so I don't need it again.
We're talking about the fucking book, and I had this major fucking breakthrough.
Well, why didn't you call me?
Because I was fucking driving and I couldn't figure out if I had your number or not because I just add numbers.
I can call you and you can answer just fine, but you can't go clickety-clack. You can text, call me, and give me a complex phone number, but you can't just
because
pull
I
up
pressed
Chris
the button
and say
on the
send.
fucking touchscreen in the car that says answer. I go, answer, and then I don't have to fucking take my hands off the wheel, really.
Oh, my
God. Did this end with anybody getting called, or was it just...
No, nobody ever called.
No, I got...
So that...
Until now, that was what he was going for.
So that's why Neptune 9 is just sitting there with cobwebs on it.
Just fucking sitting there with goddamn cobwebs because he fucking can't understand call me.
For all I knew, he was trying to contact a customer that he was headed to work on a service call for, and
through Facebook
accidentally sent it to me.
On Facebook fucking Messenger.
It's text or Facebook. It's still texting. It's just a different app. It's possible you could make a mistake. You're not perfect.
Well, we'll have to fucking disagree on that.
Meanie.
Let's talk about movies.
Movies. I bet you Chris and I are going to agree on one.
All three of us are going to agree on one, probably.
Oh, I don't know.
Return of the Living Dead.
I guarantee Chris and I do, though. I'd almost be able to bet. Fuck. I just don't trust you enough, Chris, but I'd say if I said one movie, we would both fucking say the movie. Which is probably one of the most important movies, Event Horizon.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's
absolutely
one of the most important movies of the last 40 years.
Easily. It's one of the best horror films. It's one of the best science fiction horror films. And it's a mainstream cosmic horror story, Patrick. And it's brilliant.
He's actually doing it right
this time, Patrick. It doesn't overuse a bunch of CGI. It manages to tell a scary story in space.
Man, is there any CGI except for the actual when the engine kicks on?
Well, there's some stuff floating early on. There's like a watch that floats by, tick, 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 tick. It kind of looks a little cheesy.
It was kind of before the CGI age. They were still using good gore.
There was a little bit in there.
Real good practical effects and stuff. That's what I remember as the practical effects of the movie.
Me too.
Yeah.
When that woman fell because she was chasing her son, and then she hits those grating, and she kind of just explodes out both sides. Oh, it's genius.
Yeah, I haven't seen that in a long time. That's That is not on my list. But now that it's mentioned,
right?
I mean, although I haven't written a whole lot of sci-fi, so it's hard for me to say that's a big influence. But that's certainly one of my favorite horror movies.
You could also compare it to The Shining in space. On some level,
see that? Yeah,
in elements, not the whole thing, but it has that same haunted element. Except that it's not really so much a haunting as it is a entity.
I would say that Event Horizon had as much of an influence on Hunger on the Chisholm Trail as any of the Westerns I watched. Because there was just a way that the story unfolded in Event Horizon where it wasn't archetypical horror, where they balanced, like there was a perfect mix of just fucking horror, gore, quiet. They just they just layered it. I don't know. I think that's what makes that movie so magical to me. It's just fucking perfect. Mm-hmm. And then did you see that extended cut version they keep rumoring about? Mm. Oh, it's supposed to be like an hour longer or something?
See, I keep hearing that's a myth, that there was a lot of stuff that was damaged, and that's why we'll never see a director's cut.
I just read an article on Facebook, of course, but I read it on 3 or 4 sites that said that somebody still had a VHS of the director's cut.
Huh. Well, I hope somebody pays a lot of money for it and gets it transferred.
I'll believe it when I see it.
And yeah.
But if that could be, dude, we live in an age where they're doing fucking Justice League, the Snyder cut. You know what I mean? To put that back together, I can totally see it.
Right.
Oh, I mean, how many versions of Nightbreed have there been now? Like 6 different cuts? Every time I watch it, it's 45 minutes longer than the time I saw before. I'm not playing.
That's how they've done The Godfather. Every time The Godfather comes on, it's another 30 minutes longer. Now they've got it all strung together where it's on a timeline. You can watch the whole thing you can watch the whole thing in order.
I think as long as you've seen it prior, so you know like how the story really was, to watch it in order like that, man, it makes a lot of things great. God, the De Niro stuff, I don't know, beautiful. It's a wonderful movie. Okay, Patrick, throw out a movie then, because I just nailed
all
Chris.
Right. Yeah, my favorite cosmic horror would be Jaws.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. No, but yeah, my most influential movies as far as love and horror and stuff like that. Return of the Living Dead, #1, which we talked at length about last time. Jaws,
that's a good one.
#2. #3, I put Silver Bullet because I remember being absolutely terrified as a child of that movie. I remember hiding behind the couch, but peeking around and seeing those werewolf's feet walking across the porch and just being petrified, but unable to look away.
You know something that's interesting that you mentioned Silver Bullet. Years and years ago, I actually went to church with a couple who the guy, his name was Yankton something or other. I forget his last name. Anyway, he was he had auditioned for the role. I think it was Corey Haim in Silver Bullet.
Yeah.
And he was actually the first pick, but then the casting director or something, I don't know. He ended up not getting.
Is that the movie that launched? That movie launched Corey Haim's career, didn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. So I mean,
is that before
he used to talk about it all the time.
Yeah, that's before Lost Boys. That's like 2 years before.
Yeah,
Lost Boys,
a couple years at least.
All right, I have a confession. When it comes to Stephen King movies, Maximum Overdrive might be, until recent ones, the only one that I ever enjoyed.
Great movie. As an excellent
The soundtrack is awesome. For sure.
Him all coked up.
I like that meat cutter.
It was okay, I was a kid, so it was when the pop machine hits him in the balls and then he bends down, then it hits him in the head to kill him. It knew to shoot 2 cans, get him in the nuts, then get him in the head.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great one.
How did the nut shot not kill him if the headshot was enough to?
And you know what?
There's that bank sign that starts saying "fuck you, fuck you, fuck you."
And the Green Goblin truck, that's iconic.
Yeah. The short story Trucks, I don't remember anything about that pop machine, but I do remember it in the Tommyknockers, the book. That had a flying soda machine that came after these people shooting sodas out of it, and I think he stole that and put it into Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah, probably so.
Again, Cocaine King was a different fucking animal.
He was a different king.
All right, and then I got the Nightmare on Elm Street series. Of all the quote-unquote slasher films, I was most influenced by Freddy Krueger because he was so much more inventive than fucking Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers.
Myers was my guy, but
yeah, I'm gonna say fuck you on it. I do agree that he was a more creative killer, but
and he was fun.
Without Michael Myers, there was none of those movies.
Probably true. Without Norman Bates,
I don't know about those. The Nightmare on Elm Street movies are so much different than the slasher film, the other slasher film.
No, they actually utilized the special effects of their time pretty well. They did a lot of inventive things, though. They definitely deserved their place.
And the Final Nightmare is actually the first horror movie I saw in theaters. That was the 3D one. I was 11 years old when I saw that. I remember being both terrified and just absolutely loving life. But you know what I liked about Freddy is he was also so comical. You never got that from Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers. They never said a fucking word, but
no,
Freddy
but he did in Jason Kills. I think it was the 6th one. He smashes the guy's face up against that pine tree, and it falls away with the bark, and there's like a smiley face dripping blood. That was just over the top so
cheese.
Funny. It was it was.
So you know what I
cheesiest of all of them.
I just rewatched Jason X.
Oh,
and I only watch. No. Is that the one in space?
That's horrible.
The one in space,
Yeah.
and the only reason
Jason
I
X.
watched it was because when fucking they're doing the recreation in like his mind, and he just picks up that fucking sleeping bag and swings it against the tree over and over and over. I don't give a shit. That is
Dude,
fucking
Think about
hilarious.
okay, and I can't believe that Patrick hasn't already mentioned this about Jason X. The good-looking android chick, and it pulls back, and there's her breasts out, and then the nipples fall off. Chink chink.
That's why he doesn't like it. He does not like.
Oh yeah, that's why. That makes sense.
Patrick
now.
You
is
gotta
all
have
about
nipples.
titty.
Have nipples.
But hey, you know what? If I'm going to talk about another movie, because all I talked about was Event Horizon, another one super influential, and you both know this, Pulp Fiction.
Oh yeah. Now
The
for what reason?
dialogue, everything.
Yeah,
It was huge for me.
that's what I love about all Quentin Tarantino movies. The fucking dialogue is
Well, not
great.
all of them. Kill Bill, the dialogue is kind of meh, but the gore is a lot of fun. But Jackie Brown has great dialogue. Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Inglourious
Yeah.
Bastards.
Oh,
Death Proof
Yeah, I love-
has some okay dialogue, and some of it kind of feels clunky.
yeah, that's a
But-
completely different movie though.
Yeah. Django had some good dialogue.
I mean, it's basically the N word every other word, but
But all the words in
Oh,
between
and then
it,
Tarantino saying
they
it in
were
an
nice.
Australian accent. Don't forget
Yeah.
that part.
is that what that accent was? I don't.
Well, it was
I
supposed.
think the hoods was a good idea. Next time when you do it right.
Nope.
Don't never ask nothing for me and mine again. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
I guess I like older. I think my. All right, so Event Horizon would be the horror one,
Yeah.
but the real movies that swayed me, that have made me the snob and prick that I am about movies. Enter the Dragon. Probably that may be my favorite movie of all time because I just watched it the other day and I forgot how much I love it. Black Belt Jones in there. I don't know if you guys ever saw his movie,
all Bruce Lee movies are great.
except for Game of Death. Because Game
Which
of Death.
one is it where he's asking to go to the bathroom like 4 times in the first 5 minutes? Where's your toilet? Where's your toilet?
I don't
That's
know.
Chinese Connection.
Is it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I've seen that
I
one
don't-
probably more than any of them.
So Enter the Dragon clearly is like upper echelon.
I'll be
But
right
then
back.
the important ones come out. Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh, I love it. Yes.
I love that one.
Like one of the greatest movies and still holds up to this day.
It
It
does.
does.
Low Pan
yeah.
is brilliant. I just made my kids watch Escape from New York with me. That fucking movie still holds up to me. You know what the weird thing is? It almost rings more true now than it did to me as a Cold War movie.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it. Making Manhattan into a prison, the way that, I mean, there's a lot of parables that were not seen or that had like consequences later, the butterfly effect shit.
Yeah.
I realize that it's John Carpenter might be my favorite movie maker of all time.
He's made a lot
They
of great
Live.
ones.
They Live is one
Right?
of my favorite movies.
I mean, seriously, even
the
Escape
Mouth
from
of
LA
Madness.
for the cheese
Oh.
factor.
God, it's a great movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
John. Even what was that shitty John Carpenter's Vampires?
Yeah. It was
and then
fun.
he had that Mars movie with what was that the one with
Ghosts of
Val Kilmer?
Mars.
Ghost of Mars.
That's James Wood. James Wood, yeah.
James Wood was in Vampires.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Val
Vampires.
Kilmer was in Ghost of Mars, wasn't he?
I don't remember. I know Ice Cube was.
I haven't seen Ghost of Mars.
He was
And
all right.
What's her name? Natasha Henstridge that did the Species movies.
Yeah.
She was also in it.
Yeah, but I
That
think
was a good
John
movie.
Carpenter might be the
Species
guy
was a good
that
movie.
really steered me.
You know, there
'Cause
was.
I think everything he did was brilliant.
Yeah.
Him and Wes Craven.
Yeah.
Yeah, even
I
Dark
like the
Star
one-
was a good movie and had like no budget.
I
And
still
then,
haven't
like-
seen Prince of Darkness, but I've seen a lot of people talking about it recently.
That trilogy of movies is fucking In the Mouth of Madness.
Mm-hmm.
That and what's the third one? Damn it. It's like it's a unconnected but a purposeful trilogy. I didn't know
Yeah.
that recently, and
Yeah,
I
heard
love
that.
all of those movies. I just
But you-
watched both of those recently.
There was a movie from the early 70s, a British movie that I caught on Stars years and years and years ago, late at night, and it was called Fright, and it was basically the same story as the original Black Christmas and When a Stranger Called, but it came out before either of those. So this girl goes to babysit, boyfriend comes over, they make out for a while, she's hearing sounds. There's a escaped criminal madman on the loose.
Right.
He's calling her. Phone call turns out to be coming from in the house. But it's got some genuinely scary, scary scenes in it. And I remember I saw that before I ever heard of Black Christmas or When a Stranger Calls. And that movie always stuck with me to the point I paid like $40 to get a DVD version because they were out of print and that was the only way I could find it on Amazon. Back
1971.
Yeah.
All right, I've
Yeah.
got two real shitty
Patrick,
ones.
The main girl is wearing this like purple dress through the thing that you're gonna
Jesus
adore.
Christ.
Why do I get brought up about?
Because you're the guy who loves all the naked.
Okay, these three would have
The
twisted
naked?
me as a child. The original Death Race 2000 with David Carradine.
I haven't seen it.
Oh my God! So literally, it's a race across the country, and you're supposed to kill as many people as you can.
Right
So
on.
Carradine is Frankenstein. He always wears a mask, and he's supposedly horribly scarred from a racing incident. There's one scene in this fucking cheesy ass movie, Roger Corman, where it's a nursing home, and they push the old people out into the road so they can be killed, and they're holding up signs that say "Yay Frankenstein." It was one of Stallone's first movies too. Like
Okay.
it might be his. I think it was between his gay porn and Rocky.
He did
Did
gay
he
porn.
do porn?
I'm
I don't
not
know.
Google searching it, but I'm just
I'm
telling
not
you.
Google searching it either.
I've read there's some very
I don't need to see.
You're full of
gay
shit.
erotic stuff he
Adrian,
made.
you know.
But then there was one that had Christopher Reeve and Michael Caine, and I can never remember the name of it.
Noise
But it
is
was a
off.
murder mystery.
Noise is off.
No.
Okay,
Trap?
I'm thinking that's a comedy that I'm thinking of. Noise
This
is off,
was
but
not
I
a
know what
comedy.
you're talking about.
I think Death Trap or something.
Yes.
It was a great whodunit.
Yes.
With great twists in it, and that was a brilliant. Nobody talks about it, but it was a brilliant movie.
Yeah.
You might have to look it up.
1982.
What was it called? Death Trap?
Yeah, Death Trap, 1982. It says it's a comedy crime mystery
Oh, yeah, I guess it had
with
some
Michael
humor to
Caine
it.
and Christopher Reeve. Yep.
You know
know
another
what-
great old one, The Fury, directed by Brian De Palma. It came out after Carrie. It's a similar story based on John Ferris'
Yeah.
novel. And I don't know if you guys remember, De Palma used to have a thing, and I guess he still does it if he makes anything anymore. He would have like an ultra slow motion sequence that was super suspenseful. He did it in The Untouchables with the baby carriage coming down the stairs at the end. Well, anyway, there's a scene where these government agents are coming after this woman with these telekinetic powers, and they're doing it in slow motion. And what's his name?
Yeah.
Kirk Douglas is like trying to race to get to her. And I remember the way he shot it, and the camera just kind of moving around in the slow motion, and everything. Like it really heightened the suspense. Really got me excited about watching a suspense movie. Way back when.
You know, Brian De Palma's one of those guys that should have stuck with horror, in my opinion. That's where
He
he
did.
was
That's what
at
I
his
was
best.
just thinking. Yeah, his horror, he had a real eye for horror.
He did. No, but I did like his Vietnam movie with Michael J. Fox and Sean Penn, Casualties of War. That one was good. And
It was a well-made movie, but it seemed like one that was trying to give a message more than tell a story.
I didn't see that at all.
Like, that's what I thought of. Platoon, I thought, threaded that needle well. And it told its anti-war story in a way that it didn't feel like it was slapping you in the face with it. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't have to take that from it.
Yeah. Yeah, there was definitely an anti-war message and kind of an anti-American message in Platoon as well, but it's not as noticeable. There's more story to it. There's more action to it, whereas I felt like Casualties of War was the main purpose of the movie, is to make you hate the war and hate what certain Americans did in the war.
There was a real heyday of Vietnam movies back
Yeah.
then. Metal Jacket.
Well, I
Amber
do hate
Hill and
war,
shit.
so maybe that's why I
Well,
enjoy the movie so
I'm not.
much.
I'm not saying you're not supposed to hate war, but that movie in particular, I kind of feel the same way about Born on the 4th of July with Tom Cruise. Had a very anti-American message. Is kind of how I felt.
I took it more as anti those Americans that did that bad thing. And stuff like that did happen. I'm not saying
No, I'm
by
not
any
saying
stretch
it
wasn't every soldier, but it was telling one of those stories, a fictionalized version of it. But
you're right.
I mean, my hot take is Vietnam was a shit show. Like, I know. You heard it here first, people.
We'd have been better off saying, I'll handle you.
Yeah, right? There was no reason. There was
Did y'all
see
the Ken Burns documentary of Vietnam? Oh, my God, that was so
I
good.
don't think I did.
Man,
Ken you got to watch it.
Can make any fucking documentary, and I'm going to watch it.
Yeah. Oh, me too. I love anything Ken Burns.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Even fucking that baseball one, and I don't like baseball much.
He could do a documentary on Wolf City, Texas, and everybody would watch it and love it. I guarantee you. And it would be like 20 episodes long.
That fucking cinematic shot where it's like up 30 degrees from ground level at a mud puddle, and it's the fucking donut shop, and an old Wolf City mirror goes fucking floating by the closed sign. Yeah, buddy, I can see this shit.
And it would be great. It would be awesome.
That is literally the people of Wolf
hysterical.
City. I love you, but the only thing I've ever seen of your town is the curve by the football field, the abandoned donut shop, and then Patrick. That's all I know.
The donut shop is apparently turning into like a nutrition shop now, I guess.
Well, that's probably
that's ironic.
Fucking Wolf City.
Yeah. It'll be open a couple of weeks, I'm sure.
Let me put my protein powder in my shot.
How self-sustaining would it be if they had a donut shop and like a wellness health shop in one building?
Dude,
go over there and then come over here because you need to.
A donut shop next to a gym. Yeah.
You would really expect that fucking there would be somebody with that shark mentality would do that.
Well,
that's like a pawn shop next to a liquor store. It just
pharmacies that were selling every cigarette you could imagine. And I remember looking at my dad, I was like, aren't those unhealthy? He's like, they make money for them.
Just both of you?
So.
Well, hey, they're planning for the future is what they're doing by selling cigarettes.
Yeah.
Right.
They're selling future business.
Okay, did you guys ever see the movie The Hand with Michael Caine?
No, I never have watched it.
It's my first horror film ever. I was super small.
That sounds so familiar.
He loses the hand, and the hand is, like, coming back to kill him. I haven't seen it since I was a kid because I don't want it ruined. Like, it's got a special place in my head because
I hear
I fucking thought a hand was going to come out.
I haven't watched it.
1981, The Hand. I love Michael Caine, too.
Yes.
Oh, that's an Oliver Stone film.
Yeah, and I think both of them said that was
Are you fucking serious?
Yeah, they both
Oliver
said
Stone.
that was kind of a cash-in movie for him.
Oh my God!
Or Stone may have still been climbing at the time. Maybe it was just Caine. But he said that and Jaws 4 were movies he did just because he needed some money.
Oh, Jaws 4 was so bad.
Is that the one that went to the Caribbean and the shark followed him?
Yep. And it's got the Brody's wife. But
I've never seen any Jaws but the first one.
The second one's okay.
You can pass on any of them but the first one.
The second one's not bad.
You can pass on all shark movies except Jaws.
And
all
Meg.
Shark movies
I think Meg is fun as fuck.
Oh my God.
Meg is fun.
Pedal was watching that the other day and it just looked ridiculous.
Man, sometimes you got to just shut your brain off and just let it happen.
I'm telling you. It's the fucking scene where he's getting pulled by the back of the boat and the fucking Megalodon's like right behind him and just can't get fast enough. It's that one. And it's when the Megalodon's in like the fucking 5 feet of water where everybody's swimming in wherever that was.
Even though he's like
how the fuck did you not see that shark?
Tall or long, I mean.
Right? So you're telling me either your 9-year-old is swimming in 40 feet water or they're all idiots. One of the two is the only option here. I fucking love it. It's just so dumb. It's so bad. That's one of the,
how does this pretentious motherfucker like that movie? Is what I
like bad movies.
He loves Velocipaster too.
I love bad movies.
Okay,
I love bad. You know what? I like bad movies, but for some reason I like the older exploitation bad movies. I don't like these newer CGI bullshit bad movies.
They didn't bother with CGI. They just put visual effects here flashing on the screen. And that
I mean, come on,
every
Tucker and
problem.
Dale.
It was cheap, and it didn't look cheesy. It made
Did you
me
guys
laugh.
watch Tucker and Dale?
Yes, that's a great one.
Tucker and Dale.
Which is, again, if I had to say in the last 20 years, that's a top 5 horror film for me. That fucking movie was brilliant.
It's
It was a
hilarious.
good movie. I know that's like one of Jeff Strand's favorite movies. Tucker and
It
Dale.
makes sense. I mean, they put the fucking humor and the horror perfectly balanced.
Mhm.
It didn't topple one way or the other, which had to be careful. Like that's a mixture that you can just ruin a film with.
Yeah, and I love how they made the victims the bad guys. You know, and the bad guys were these bumbling victims that things kept just happening to them.
And it was just so random. Just almost every day. Even when the girl starts to strip and she hits her head in the water, and they're like,
Yeah.
"You killed her."
So
Alex
you would put
played it
Tucker
so
and Dale above
perfect.
Zombieland and
I would put it above
Yeah.
Zombieland, other than the Bill Murray scene.
oh, I love Bill Murray.
Yeah,
Bill Murray
I
scene
mean,
is
don't
great.
get me wrong, Zombieland is good, but for a comedy horror film, Tucker and Dale is top 3 all-time comedy horror. Because it was just perfect. It was balanced. They did it right.
Yeah, it's every bit
We
as good as
put-
Shaun of the Dead.
I would probably put House. Y'all remember House?
House
I'm
is
not talking about the
great. House
TV
is
show. I'm
fun.
talking about the horror movie.
Yep.
But that
I
wasn't meant
watched
to be a
that.
comedy.
It was
The
meant
first
to be a
one was.
comedy. Yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
remember being terrified of it as a kid, but I watched it again a few months ago, and it's
What it-
actually fucking hilarious.
You know what?
Is that the one with
If
George
we're gonna
Wendt?
talk, go ahead.
I might
George
be the guy from Cheers, Norm from Cheers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He played the neighbor. Yeah.
I might be thinking of House 2, the second story then.
Yeah, that one is also comedy, but it's not as funny to me. If we're going to talk funny horror movies, though, we have to talk about Dead Alive.
Well, we have to talk. Well, I mean,
Peter Jackson.
you can't
Bad
take
Talk
Taste.
about
Evil
some
Dead
splatter.
out. Evil Dead 2 is probably
Yeah.
Dead
Well,
too.
right there.
Evil Dead 2 is probably
Yeah, anything Evil
the
Dead.
best execution of it, but Dead Alive is like it's probably the goriest thing I've ever watched.
That guy who made the Hobbit films, all of his old
Peter
stuff
Jackson.
before that. Yeah, Bad Taste.
Bad
And that
Taste,
fucking
I
pigeon
have
kept
that
coming
one.
and picking
I
at
haven't
his
seen
brain.
that case.
I
Oh
love
my-
when his
are you
brain would fall out and
serious?
his eyes would flutter, and then he shoves them back in. He has a belt, and he like
Yeah.
cinches it up, and then all of a sudden he can think straight again.
Oh, Bad Taste was just, oh my
And he
god.
was
Yeah,
picking-
Peter
he would pick
Jackson,
up
his
brains
original
off the
stuff was
ground and
brilliant.
stuff them back in his head. It was
Yeah,
so
about-
good.
Stuff right there.
So
Here in an hour and a half. We probably need to call this quits.
yeah, we probably should. I gotta go kiss the kiddos.
Anybody got anything else to say? Before I end
We're
this?
just so we're finalizing the cover for
Oh,
Cerberus
yeah,
right now.
Cerberus Rising.
Our book should be out. What do y'all think? In the next couple weeks, maybe?
I'm assuming, yeah.
I
Are
don't
we going
know.
to do a pre-order?
I don't know. Stay tuned on Facebook and our websites and Twitter and stuff like that for the release of Cerberus Rising. It's coming in the next probably couple of weeks.
Yeah, super close. And the
yes.
cover is a thing of fucking beauty.
It is. And Mike pees out of his nipples.
Yeah. Bye.